right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third day of the Future Insiders program, right here powered by YouTube Black in collaboration with Lock Communications. My name is Lee Art and I'll be facilitating today's program, just how everything will be going about. We are joined by Nivo. He is from T Effect and he falls under management. And then we have Sis Lesego and she's under Tailormade Legal and she will fall under the legal conversation. So I just want to give them a chance to just explain what their companies do, who they are, when they started, basic, just so you can go right into it. Yeah.
I'm assuming I'm going to go first. I'm Lesego Palesa Chaka, and I am the Managing Director at Tailormade Legal Solutions. Essentially what Tailormade does, so we are an entertainment legal consultancy. We offer consulting services in the legal space to artists, talent agencies, so from Lork to your Duma collectives. And I mean, honestly, I would mention who it is that we represent, so to speak, but I'd literally have to go through the entire industry. And so yeah, essentially that's what we do. So we offer legal advice, legal counsel. It goes as far as, legal drafting and anything legal really that has to do in the entertainment, media, and music space. So yeah, that's essentially what Tailormade does.
Hey, mic doesn't work.
Please switch it out, just make sure it's on.
Two. Oh, hey guys. Hope everyone is good. I am Nivo from the T Effect, co-CEO and creative director. We are a management company. We represent, I can't flex like Lesego. We don't represent the whole industry, but we are a client for her. So we represent artists like AKA, Musa, Costa, Titch. The list goes on and on. We've got about 8 clients, but what we basically do is building the ecosystem for each of the artists so that they can just do what they do best and become stars. Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll start with management precisely, then we'll get into the legal side of things, because I think we need to understand first that you need a proper management before we get into the legal stuff. So what should one expect from management? So now I'm a talent. I think I'm good at what I do. When I'm approaching a management company, what should I be expecting?
It's a very complicated one because you've got to have to look at it in 2 different points of view. So the first part of it is we as managers go into clients knowing very well that we are going to be glorified babysitters. That's what we do. We basically, when you go into management, you need to have a point of view of understanding that these people are crazy. There's a certain level of crazy that they need to do what they do best. So you have to go into that knowing very well that these guys are going to be weird. Now, for the point of view of the artist needs to find someone that is as hungry as they are for what you guys are doing. So for example, your manager doesn't have to be the most qualified human being, but if it's like one of your boys who's hungry as fuck. Sorry, can I swear? No, I can't, sorry. It's going on YouTube. Someone who's as hungry as you are to build and try and learn and figure this thing out, because at the end of the day, when you the artist and the manager are partners in this thing. So you can't find someone that's not going to work as hard as you, or someone that's just out here for clout and, glory. So I think that's the most important thing, finding someone as hungry as you are. Yeah.
But once I do, what could I be expecting from your company? What are the things that you do for a brand or for a person that's in the entertainment industry?
I think the first thing that we do when we onboard a client is building a business plan, because the artist is a business. That's the most important thing for you to know, is that the artist is a business. So when we onboard someone, we build a business plan that's going to run. We have 5-year goals, we have 10-year goals, there's 15-year goals, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build something that's long and sustainable. So when we do that process and we go through that process, we look at the 360 of the artist. So what does the finance look like? What does the legal look like? What does mental health right now, because that's a big thing, So you have to be on top of all of those different things. What does the family situation look like? So what we do is we'll build the entire infrastructure and the ecosystem so the artist can literally just focus on making the music and everything else is taken care of.
Okay. And does bookings and just trying to get them out there known, finding them brand deals, does that still fall under what you do?
Yes. So I think if you were to look at the pillars that we handle, we'd handle the overall brand and positioning. We'll handle bookings. We'll handle, I'm trying to think, the music side of things. So we'll have to figure out what's the best deal for the artist. And the best way for them to release music. For our artists, it's 8 different artists with 8 different deals, 8 different structures that work for each of them. So we'll also handle the label services, work with the label hand in hand. I'm just trying to think, brand deals, yes. We may onboard some agencies for certain things, but we'll basically oversee the whole entire process.
And how do you ensure that as a business you don't become greedy? Because I mean, this is also work for you, so it needs to become an income. So how do you make sure that you don't end up thinking, okay, I'm not going to take this deal because from my business point of view, I'm not going to get a cut. But if you think about it in the future, it might just be, yes, it might not have a lot of money now, but it will create a very big impact for the artist in the future. So how do you exclude yourself sometimes and forget that, okay, fine, I'm in the business and this doesn't benefit me right now, but I think for the artist, it will grow them and maybe later draw in more money?
The business plan is the Bible.
Okay.
The business plan is the Bible. So that's what's going to guide us in terms of what we accept and what we don't accept. There's something that I really like saying is that as managers, yes, in the manager space, you want to be number one, the best in the business. But in the bigger picture, you're number 2 because your artist is number 1. So you always got to have to see what is the most important thing. The most important thing is what's going to work for your artist. You know, so if the business plan guides us in a certain way where, okay, cool, that deal works for X, Y, Z, might not be a lot of money right now, but later on it might work out. Then if that's good for the artist, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. And from the talent side, what do you as management expect? I know, of course, you're signing a person who's a producer or who's a singer. You're expecting them to come with hits or rather do good at what you've signed them to do. But other than that, what do you expect from them?
I as the manager, can't want this more than you. We can want it the same, but I can't want it more than you. The artist needs to understand that my job is to open doors for them to step in the rooms. They need to step in the room and perform. That's it. Whether it's with brand, whether it's with fans, or whatever the case is, my job is to create those opportunities for them to do their job. So they need to always be able to do their job consistently. It's tough. It's very tough. I'm thinking of all my people right now. Because, like I said, I started this thing by saying these people are crazy, but like in a good way. I will put one of my artists. He's literally had the craziest year this year. He maybe rests once or twice a week. So we also have to be mindful of how they're feeling. As much as I want them to perform and I want them to go out on the road and do media, but I also need to make sure that they have time to like rest. Otherwise, they're going to flip out. They're going to act out, and it's going to be a movie.
And then you are basically you sell your artist. Yeah. Sorry. You are in rooms that they're not in, and people need to take your word for it. How difficult is that? Now, we are in a program where people here are all upcoming. Songwriters, producers, so forth. So my thing is, how do you sell someone who's not known? How do you let the big brands say, how do you tell someone that, listen, I think she's good or he's good, and allow that to speak?
I think one thing that you need to understand is that the management business is a relationship management business. You need to be able to build trust with the brands. You need to be able to build that relationship with the agencies. You need to be able to, so that they are able to take your word for it. For me, when it comes to an up-and-coming artist, a lot of the opportunities that we get, it's based on reputation. Our reputation as opposed to the artist's reputation. So that's why it's important as managers to always try and build those relationships. And then when your artist pops off, you'll see everybody's going to knock on the door.
And then for those that are here and they have their management but back at home and they're not here, what are the tips that you could give them to go back and tell them that, listen, I thought maybe this is how we can approach things now. Maybe let's try this strategy. Maybe this is what works. How do you network also? Because it's easy to say someone needs to be in places, but not all those doors are open for someone to be in those places. So how do you get there?
I think let me answer the first question. The first question being, I think you put it right. The first thing that you need to do is always have that communication. I think the artist and the manager always have to be honest with themselves so that they don't gas each other up. The more you gas each other up, the more you're actually not going to see all the holes that you need to fill in. So you always have to have those conversations and say, Eshpa, honestly, this thing is not working. Eshpa, no, this thing is, if there's a target for money that you're trying to make, this money is not coming in right. How do we change it? So the more you guys communicate, because at the end of the day, there is no book. There's no book for this thing. There's no book that will guide you and say, this is how you blow up an artist, or this is how you become whatever. There's no book for it. You guys always consistently have to go back to the drawing board and say, is this thing working, yes or no? If it's not working, how do we change it? How do we fix it? Then the networking part of it is a very difficult one. You gotta shoot your shot. You have to shoot your shot. I'll make an example. When myself and my business partner Tiama started the business a couple of years ago, we started this business. We were in France, right? We were in France in a music workshop. How did we get to the music workshop? We were on the road with AKA, who was performing at the festival. What we did is we got our coins to get accreditation to go to music workshops. We get to music workshops, we start introducing ourselves. Introduce yourself as, I'm the biggest deal in Africa. You understand? Because they don't know better. They don't know better. So it's how you introduce yourself. So we introduce ourselves like we're the biggest people on the continent. The business hasn't been formed. It hasn't even been registered, Then AKA gets booked to do another festival in the US. Then we go. There's a workshop there as well. Do the same thing. So we get there, some of the people that we met in France are there. So now they're starting to take us seriously. Basically what I'm trying to say is, go to as many of these things as possible. Get yourself out as much as possible so people can start recognizing you. The more they recognize you, the more they're going to start seeing that you're legit. Okay, this guy knows what he's saying. Don't think. There's a friend of mine that likes making jokes about this let's work conversation that happens in the club. A lot of us have those conversations. We're in the club or we're at groove, we say, hey, let's work. Hey, let's build. Don't rush that conversation. Build the relationship first. Let people start seeing you and knowing you. If you can get an email address, if you get an email address, don't want their phone number because people are very, with their phone numbers. Get an email address, send them an email, hey, this is me. The next time you see them, hey, I sent you an email, blah, blah, blah. So I think networking is literally shooting your damn shot as much as you can.
You did mention that there is no book and there's no formula, but I'm pretty sure that there are a few things that are essentials when trying to build someone's brand or when you're trying to manage a certain artist. So what are the few things that one needs to pay attention to? Of course, it will be different with each and every artist, but what are those few steps that are essential in everything?
Get yourself a damn good lawyer. That is important. I'm telling you, let me tell you, I think for me, I learned over the years that is the most important thing. There's ways of doing this thing. You don't have to have 3 million rand to get a lawyer. That is the most important thing. I don't know how many times she's had to save our asses because we just did things willy-nilly. We're like, yo, let's just do this, but what does this mean? Google, sharp. Let's rock. And then later on, now we're in the shit. Now I have to call her and say, this is tough. How do I? So I think it's important. I think that's the first step because as a musician, you gotta understand all the laws that protect you as a musician, right? You gotta understand what you're signing. When you're in studio and making that music, you guys are gonna have to walk out of that room with a split sheet. Otherwise we are going to fight again. I've got 4 or 5 different songs where in the beginning stages we don't do split sheets, and then the song blows up. Then everybody's greedy. Oh no, I did more than that. No, I did that. I came up with that. There's no proof. So if you can make sure that all your legal side of things is taken care of. So if it means, I don't know, man, there's options out there, legal-wise or what. But honestly, that's the first thing. The second thing that you need to make sure that when you're building as an artist is make sure you have a team around you, or people, it doesn't even have to be a formal team, but people that are around you are people that understand that they are representing you and not themselves. Because the biggest problem that a lot of these artists, I've spoken to a lot of these artists like recently that are like blowing up, their teams become superstars. You understand? Then the manager doesn't want to go do that gig because there's no girlfriend there. No, he'd rather go to that one because he'll find girls there. So now it's all about the manager. So always find the right people around you and in your circle.
Okay, and then what are the questions that artists are supposed to be asking? So I'm blowing up, or I'm trying to blow up, and I need management. I feel like I need management. I get approached, or I don't, or I approach other management team. What are the questions that I should be asking you to figure out whether this is good enough for me or it's not?
Number one, you got to look at the track record. You got to look at what they've done or what they're doing. I mean, a lot of people haven't done much and they're still building up. But in the little that they've done, if you can see that, okay, sharp, this person is going somewhere, then at least you can be able to make your decision. But the other thing is that I think we live in a time and an age where information is there for us. You got to try and ask as many questions as you can. The question, what does this mean, isn't a difficult question. If someone brings out a contract to you and puts it in front of you and say, hey, sign this, you got to ask, what does this mean? What does each clause mean, so that you understand how and how it, but also you must also be able to go and ask other people, because there's a lot of people, this industry is full of people that can finesse, I won't lie. Someone will tell you and sell you the whole entire world. They'll sell you the whole world. You'll see yourself being the biggest star working with this person. But then when you start working, you're like, nothing. What is this? So ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of what does this mean, but ask other people as well. Don't be afraid to ask other people.
And then I don't think when you start out immediately you need management. So when is that essential pinnacle point for someone that's starting out? When do you say, okay, cool, I think right now, maybe this is the time to look for management?
That bro that's with you in studio, making sure you're fed, that's your manager. You understand? That bro that is with you in the very beginning, so you can start building your system and your ecosystem with your boys. Give your boys responsibilities. You always, as the artist, you can't always be the guy that's running in front. You need other people to run for you. So use the people around you. Give whoever's eager and hungry to work with you in your team, put them on, and we all build together.
To close off this conversation, so we might know as artists what we're looking for, but what is management precisely looking for? Because you could go and say, I want to be managed by so and so, and they might feel like, I don't see anything. So what is it that management is looking for when you're trying to spot something, especially because it's young and it's growing? How do you see that, okay, this one kind of has potential?
I can't answer for other people. But honestly speaking, I've been doing this thing for way too long. So a lot of it is like a gut feeling.
Wow.
For me personally, so I can't answer for other people. For me, it's a gut feeling. If I don't feel it, for me, then I'm not going to do it. I mean, other people might look at what your numbers are looking like, what are you looking like on SoundCloud and all of those things. But, some might be looking at how you're presenting yourself. But for me personally, it's always a gut feeling.
So have you, in the past, ever taken someone that you genuinely didn't like, on paper, it didn't make sense, but because of your gut, you went with it?
I'll tell you something. I did not like Musa Keys. I did not like Musa Keys. No, I honestly, I thought this kid was just doing too much. You know, he was trying too hard. You know, for me, it's just like, I just didn't like him. But then when it was I look at him, I'll get annoyed. I'm like, damn, this kid is doing too much, but actually I like it. You know, I actually really like it. And then, you know, Musa, he floods the streets with content, you know, so he's always in your face, you know. But then when I looked at it and I was like, okay, Sharp, let me put my feelings of irritation aside. This brew is actually really brilliant. You know, this brew is really brilliant. And it worked out. It's been working out.
We are going to get into PR a bit later in the second session, but I want to know what's the difference between you and the PR people, because you are on the forefront of what's happening at the back. So you spoke about social media, about numbers, about growing the brand. So what exactly differentiates you from PR?
I contract PR.
Okay.
You understand? So, for example, right now we're going to the UK for a couple of weeks. I'm going to find a publicist who's going to work the client. So for me, like I said, for me it's the ecosystem and building overall, but I need to know enough about everything to know when someone's bullshitting me. So that's when I know, okay, Sharp, PR, no. Are you getting what? Putting me on that paper? No, that one doesn't work. You understand? So we contract PR to work on our brands and our clients.
All right, so I want to get into legal now, because...
Sorry, please listen to this one, guys.
Yeah, like...
Honestly speaking, just listen. Yo.
We have heard a lot of stories. We have seen stories of people getting ripped off. We still hear it even now. You'd think it's a conversation that needs to be stopped, we should just stop talking about it because we've spoken about it so much. But it still happens till this day. People get ripped off, they don't get their royalties and so forth. So just to explain, what does Tailormade Legal really step in and do? What are the things as artists we need to look out for?
I think the most important thing, and I have to go back to everything that Nivo said, which I think a lot of up-and-coming artists neglect, is you need legal from the onset. And you don't have to get an expensive lawyer. You don't have to go to, a really big law firm to, get the legal counsel that you need. But you need somebody with some kind of legal knowledge or some kind of, at least, interest in going through your paperwork, right? Because once you neglect that at the beginning or in the initial stages, then you find yourself with either problems with management or problems with your team structure or monies that you'd made in the beginning that you can never actually account for, and it's a big mess, right? So I want to debunk the narrative that no, in the beginning it's just going to be me and my boys and we're growing. Like, it doesn't work. Right? It really doesn't work, because when you guys start popping off and start making money, then it becomes very awkward and the conversation changes. Like, your boys are no longer your boys. It happens too many times, and I just want that to be noted from the onset. One thing that I'd say people need to look out for, and I've mentioned this numerous times, is just stressing the importance again of seeking legal counsel. A person who looks over your contracts is able to pick out certain things that you need to look out for. Very, I want to say, seemingly insignificant points in a contract or a conversation that happens, but that have very serious repercussions in the long run that a lot of people neglect. So, paperwork. Like, anybody that gives you anything or anybody that says, yo, dog, let's do this, let's run with this, I have a concept, this is, we have an investor, I like your song, I want to put it on radio, that needs to be in writing somewhere, right? I don't want to advise anyone to go off of things on word of mouth, because whatever is agreed to today is not going to be the same thing tomorrow. And you won't have any paper trail of what was spoken about or what you agreed to. So, it's very difficult to say what exactly to look out for, because various deals differ. So if it's music, deal memos differ. What you get from a big label, I don't know. Am I allowed to mention labels? I don't know. Yeah, what you get from one label, you won't get from another. So, and if you're in the say influencer space, your agreements differ from what you'd get in the music space. It's very difficult to really say what it is that you need to look out for, but with the right people and the right legal counsel, you'd be able to nitpick those things that really work for you as a person in the entertainment or the media space.
Okay, so we focused a lot this week on production and songwriting. So let's bring it to the music side of things.
Yeah.
So I get approached by a recording label, and now it's time to sign a contract. How long is too long? And because I've heard that once it's over 5 years, sometimes it's just start small, start small and build up with that recording label. So what are the things that as an artist you should look out for, in the sense that, okay, maybe the time frame should be more or less like this or like that, and then percentage-wise, this is what you should be getting. You're being ripped off if this is what's being said, and so forth.
Yeah. Again, there are many deals that a label can give you. So, for instance, if one of the majors approach you, when I talk about majors, I'm talking about your Universals, Sonys, Warners, all of those. If a major approaches you, obviously either they approach you or you approach a label and say, I'm looking for a single deal, which is what we usually advise, especially if you're trying to see how the label works. Say, I'm looking for a single recording deal so that you can see how they work that single, right? And then after there, you can make your decision in terms of exploitation of the sound, radio plugins, just those things, how they work the song. So you get single deals, you get license deals, you get joint ventures, and all those have different terms, right? So for instance, a license deal, you'd want to give them time to work your catalog. So when I talk catalog, it's all the music that you've either released or are yet to release, right? So with a license, for instance, you're looking at least, 3 to 5 years, which is a fair amount of time to allow a label to do what it must for you to actually begin to see the fruits of the music that you've released, right? With a JV, still pretty much the same years. So with a JV is a joint venture, so it's you partnering with a label, so everything is split 50-50. Recording costs 50-50, PR 50-50, and if the label happens to spend money on recording or your PR, marketing, and all of that, then all those costs, it's like if you do decide to maybe leave that partnership, then we need to run a P&L, which is your profit and loss, and then whatever surplus remains is split 50-50 between artist and the major. So that's a JV. Even the terms there, you're looking at least around 3 to 5 years, with a license very similar to that. So I wouldn't advise anybody to go into a deal that would lock you in for longer than you realistically want to stay in something. I don't imagine anybody today wanting to stay with a label for 10 years. Because anything, today you may be, not so hot, right? And you're happy with how they're doing things. But who's to say that in 3 years' time or 5 years' time, you actually want to be with the same label? If you want to go international, now you're locked in and you either have to work with their subsidiaries, so maybe Sony International, or you know what I mean? So you want to think ahead, right? It's all very interesting when it comes to you now, but you need to have foresight. This is why it's so important to have a team that actually thinks it's all exciting now, but what does it mean for us 3 to 5 years from now? Like Nivo said, business plan, golden, right? And with Tailormade, and this is, I suppose, the very interesting part of what we do, is that though we offer legal consulting services, we're 40% legal and 60% business affairs. Because for us to solely look at the artists themselves and their craft, for us is very narrow-minded, because the artist is a brand at the end of the day. And even if they are not a brand right now, we look at you as a brand and as a business. So the advice that we give you does not solely focus on, I want to drop a song next month. It also focuses on, Sharp, you want to drop the song next month, but you seem to also be doing a lot in the street fashion space, for instance. What brands would you like to work with? What does that look like with you? Then we call on agents and all sorts of other people that we have in our ecosystem to say, look, let's build brand Lesseha, as more than just an artist. She also likes whiskey. Let's make her work with Jamison, for instance. You know what I mean? So you need to have a team that doesn't just focus on the music, but is also broad in the sense that they also look at the repercussions or what certain deals would mean for you a couple of years from now, essentially.
Okay, so you did mention earlier on about split shares and so forth. So now here I am, I have a song, I believe in it, I think it's really gonna pop, and now it's time to release the song. What's the right process in terms of releasing it, in terms of split shares, and what does that really entail? Especially also, features and collaborations, how did that go about? How do you decide that, okay, no, fine, this is my song, I'm going to feature you? Or no, this is our song. How does that all go about?
Okay, so with regards to the release itself, right? And I want to take a step back. In terms of split sheets, you need to sort that out the day that you guys record that song. So the moment you get into studio, have just a paper that you say, these are all the people that are on the song, this is what they did. If you're a producer, you fall under the producer side. If you are on the vocals, you fall under the author, singer, songwriter side. And then you now begin to split, these are the primary artists and, 50% goes to label, the remainder goes to everybody else on the song. Then you now begin to split your publishing. You know what I mean? So even that, it sounds very complicated and tricky, but it's really not, and it saves you a world of trouble, right? And what you don't want to do is release a song not having discussed those very important things. Because, like Nivo said, you go into studio, record a song, gets released, you don't anticipate that it'll blow up, but it does. And then tomorrow, it's, okay, so who's getting what royalties out of the song? How much of it am I actually entitled to? So you want to have those conversations at the initial stages and not later on. And then in terms of the release, you can release that however, I suppose. It's not unless you're signed to a label, obviously, then there's processes, submissions, and all of those things. But there's people who just are self-published, they aren't with any kind of label, so you just kind of release music and they're able to plug themselves with DSPs. DSPs are, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and all of that. In terms of selecting or picking who to feature, well, I suppose you record a song or you want to record a song, you call a couple of guys into studio. We all know, that's my song, you're featured on my song, it's my song, and I called you to produce or mix and master, whatever. Right? And that essentially is the structure. Okay. In terms of picking out collaboration and features, with a collab, I guess everything boils down to a conversation, right? It's you came into studio, or I don't know, we were using your studio and I wanted to record my song. You mixed and mastered, I was on vocals. Do you want to be a producer? Do you want your credits as a producer? Or do you want it to be a Nivo and Lesseha song? You know what I mean? So everything boils down to a conversation, but it's important to have that conversation at the very beginning, either the day the song is recorded, but before the release.
Okay. And then in terms of masters, so I've learned that you actually, the people who own the masters of the song is whoever owns the studio at which it was recorded, if I'm not wrong. So my question is, how do I then say it's my song, but I don't own the masters? Or how do I ensure that I own those masters? What do I do?
Well, firstly, the person who you recorded, if you use somebody's studio to record your song, is not the owner of the song or the master owner. I can go into studio today and say, I want to use Nivo's studio. That doesn't mean that Now, because I recorded in his studio, it's his song. It's look at it as a work for hire type of thing. I'm paying you to use your studio. You've allowed me into your space. Sure, thank you. Here's your money. I take my product. Just because I walked into Pick and Pay and bought something doesn't mean, I don't even know. It was a bad analogy. But exactly, like I'm not going to suddenly own Pick and Pay because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So essentially, debunk that thought. Just because you use somebody's studio, the song, you are the master right owner or the copyright holder, whatever. The person look at it as a work for hire, or you rendered a service to me and I paid you for it. So essentially, that's that. What was the second question? I just needed to get that clear because it happens too often. So I just need you guys to really understand that. No, you do still own your masters, irrespective of whether you use somebody else's studio or not.
Okay, I guess that answers the second question, because the second question was, if that's the case, how do I make sure that I end up owning my masters without my own studio? So, but since you do mention that it doesn't mean that, then I guess automatically it means I own my masters as
100%.
long as. So what happens if I didn't pay for it? It's a thing of, I know you and you have a recording label, you have your own studio, it's known, but I know you, and it was just like Angzile, and I did it, and then later on, and I need to release the song. Fine, the song might be mine, but I don't own its masters.
And again, I suppose it boils down to conversation, right? This person whose studio you used, and did they do anything on the song? If they did mixing and mastering, then you can have a conversation of, look, I'm willing to give you a portion of the copyright or the publishing share, right? And if they produce the whole thing and you still use their studios, credits also go a long way, and people actually fight for these things. Just credit them, just to say, X song on your DSP is produced by Lee Art, you know what I mean? So it's, again, boils down to a conversation, and I don't want people to neglect or ignore to have these conversations, because tomorrow when the song blows up, you'll find yourselves beefing for absolutely no reason.
And then I want us to get into royalties.
Okay.
What is royalties? Let's start it there. What are royalties? And how do you make sure that it's actually the X amount that you deserve, in the sense that we have so many public platforms where music is played? I, for one, am familiar with the Sambro one and how they do their work, but now we are very digital too. So how are we getting our royalties when music is being played and streamed everywhere?
So what are royalties? I think that's a first and most important thing to know and understand. Royalties, simply put, money generated from your song, right? So whether it's from streaming, needle time, radio time, all of that's money. Those are what royalties are. So your net receipts from streams and all sorts. Royalties, and I suppose it's important for me to also mention the organizations that facilitate or collect royalties. And you mentioned SAMRO, SAMPRA, CAPASO. Those are all your collection societies. And when you've released a song, after a certain number of years, I wouldn't say months, because I mean you wouldn't necessarily have much to collect, because you need to allow things to play to make money. So you'd go to your collection societies and say, listen, this, and ordinarily they'd send you a statement to say you are on such and such a song, and this is the split that was agreed to. This is, again, going back to split sheets, because you, as the master right owner, have to submit those splits to the collection societies, so that when they do a portion, say your song made 50 Rand, and now I am due 10% of that, you as the owner are due 40%, and then Nivo's also due his I don't know, 5%, and somebody else is due something else. They submit that, and then that is what you collect. You collect your 10% or your 5% according to those splits. So yeah, essentially, those are royalties, those are your collection societies, and that is who you go to when you want to collect your money.
And how are they calculated?
according to your split sheets.
No. I mean, how does Sambro know this is how much I owe you? What's per song? Like, what's the calculation? Because I think with Spotify, was it YouTube? I think it's like 5 cents per stream or so
forth.
forth.
That one is a very tricky conversation.
Yeah.
That is a very, very tricky
So
conversation.
how is it calculated? And also on radio, is it a thing of once it's played today and then it's played tomorrow and it's played the other day? Does that accumulate to something? I just want to know the calculations.
Essentially, so these collection societies or, the institutions that actually collate this data, so they collate data from all platforms. So in DSPs, radio time, where it's playing. And if you're signed to like a major, they send you, what do you call this? Radio playlists. Or,
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially that's how they collate their data. And if you're with the distro, they are also able to collate that data for you. So your plays accumulate X amount. And then it will be per song, and especially when you request this data from a distributor, for instance, you would request your statements per song, right? That way, you're able to see how much each song has made. And then you go back to your split sheet and say, we made 50 Rand on this song. I, Lesego, am entitled to 10%. Therefore, I'm going to invoice 10% of the full amount, essentially. That's how they collate that data. They have their own system. They have their own programs. I'm not sure how it works. I don't work at collection societies. But you can request these statements and they are readily available for you. And I need people to know that after a certain number of years, you still can, because the data is still very much there, but I wouldn't wait longer than a certain amount of time before you actually go and say, I want monies for X song.
What is a certain amount of time?
I wouldn't let at least 3-5 years pass. I wouldn't advise that you let it sit for 10 years. No.
So could it be that you wouldn't get it, or would it just be a hassle to get it?
Yeah, just relieve yourself of the administrative mess. Honestly.
It's not working, but I want to say example, home affairs.
Exactly. So look, a 3-year period. Give yourself a 3-year grace period. Let the money let the song do what it needs to do so it can accumulate something that's sensible, then go collect.
All right, to round it off, you touched a bit on copyrights. Is that the same thing as a split sheet of just knowing that, okay, you published, you are the writer, you are the producer? Is it simply just that, or what exactly are copyrights?
So when I talk about copyright, I'm talking about, on your split sheet, you have your master royalty share, and then you also have your copyright or publishing share, right? And that's what you'd split between the singer-songwriter, and then you'd also split that between your producers. So it's not the same thing. So you have a copyright percentage or splits on a split sheet, and then the copyright is the apportionment of your publishing.
All right, so I just want to open it up to the audience. So it's going to be questions from both sides. If you have questions about management, questions about legal, I think the mic is on there. So if you could just raise your hand if you have a question, I'll pick who can go, and then we can have a Q&A session quickly.
Okay.
All right.
Hi. Hello. I just have 2 quick questions. And I'm familiar with these masters. I've heard about masters, but I would like to know, what are masters? Is it something tangible? And then the second question is, if I'm featured on a song with a particular artist, can I use the same song, like he's got the same song in his album? Can I also put that song on my album too?
Okay. Just the first question on what are masters. So when we talk about masters, we're talking about, it's not something tangible, like it's your song. Yeah. Essentially, we're talking, I want to say master rights or rights to a track, Like, you know, when you talk about a master recording, we're talking about the song, right? And that's it's not something tangible. It's not, yeah. So that's essentially what we're talking about when somebody mentions masters or master recording or owning your masters. Am I owning my music, essentially? The second question on somebody else wanting to use a song that is on somebody else's album. Had you worked on that song with them? Also, you're featured and then you want to add that onto your, again, matter of a conversation, right? But that becomes very tricky because do you now consider that a collab? Because now the credits now differ, right? If you were featured, it would be X featuring you. But now if you're going to now put it on your album, what does that arrangement look like? And that's the kind of conversation that you need to talk about from the initial state, from the onset. Like, do you intend to use the song? Yes, I actually do want to drop an album at a later stage and I want to incorporate that song into my album. Sharp, let's make it a X and X song, essentially. But now it changes a whole lot in terms of dynamics because you now look at it as who actually owns the song, right? And then your splits now come into the question is say, who gets the lion's share of the master, who gets the lion's share in terms of copyright, because who does the song actually belong to? So if you're going to do something like that, have that conversation from the beginning before anybody actually releases the song, so that if it's going on two separate projects, you don't have an issue of, you know, that's actually my song. Why is it on your album? You know, so.
I laugh because I recently dealt with a situation like that. The story goes, producer comes to one of my clients' houses and says, hey, let's work on music. Producer has the song on his, I think maybe 20% of what the song is on his laptop. They work on it together, right? Then when they agree, okay, no, it's going to be both our song. Now, when we then have to now sort out the paperwork, we also now, unfortunately, sorry, I'm going to use this Zulu. So what I did, I said, okay, cool. You guys did the song. It's going to be the two of your song, right? But between the two of you guys, my guy's the bigger artist. And if he drops it, it's going to help the whole song. Okay, cool. Then we agree. Now here's the other mess. Now let's talk percentages, right? This guy's like, no, I want to have the song on my album too. Then I say, no, but the problem is we are going to do all of this work building this song. Yes, the song is going out as A and B on this song, it's our song, but we're going to do all the work. You're going to get a percentage from what we're doing. Then when you drop your album later on, you are going to be benefiting from all the work that we did. So, back to paperwork. We said, okay, cool, you know what, let's do this. We will give you X percentage of the royalties on this song, but what will happen is you can't drop it on your album, right? Because I need to make sure my client is happy as well, because I don't want to have a year later someone else is dropping the song. Just confuses a lot of things. So that's where also paperwork comes in. So have your discussion, have your arrangement, but always come back and get the paperwork done. Always.
All right. You may go.
Hi guys, hi everyone. I'm Ultimatum. I want to ask, my question is mostly, it's going towards, I think, both management and legal. It's sample clearance. So, you know, I had a situation, right? There's a Neo song I sampled, right? So I did sample the song, then I tagged him on it. He actually ended up seeing the song, and he liked it and expressed that he wanted to work, possibly. So I took that as like a clearance for the song. I tried to put out the song. It was taken down. So my distributor was asking me that I should get like a license document from the owner of the master. So my question is, how do I go about getting that license document from the owner of the master? do I go directly to the label, or do I go back to him and
He
ask?
probably doesn't own the master.
That's why I'm mentioning the label. Because when I did research, it's under Def Jam US, and when I think I'm in South Africa, getting a hold of them is gonna be like a mission. So should I just let the song go, or because I'm in a real pickle?
Honestly, it's actually crazy that you mentioned sample clearances, because we've been having this conversation in the office, and I'm just like, guys, it's such a mess because people just be dropping songs that have been inspired by somebody else.
Especially piano.
Yes.
It becomes very awkward, right? With regards to the license document, so what we have done at Tailormade, and I would like to believe that a lot of legal, bodies actually do this, and I also think it just lessens the administrative burden on the artist. Again, like, nobody wants to be sampling songs, right? So in terms of the master license agreement, which is what we would prepare with your, we'd send it out to the original master rights holders. In this case, you'd want to assume that it's Neo. And then they would have to clear that. So you'd offer them, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to offer, 50-50 on net sales or net receipts, which is ordinarily what you'd want to do when you clear a sample. Alternatively, then they would then come back with like a counter proposal, and we say, no, you've used a large share of the song itself, so we want, I don't know, something crazy, say 80%.
I've got an example. Someone sampled a song. One of my clients sampled a song.
Yeah.
The person came back and said they want 100% publishing.
Yeah. And it really does happen. It really does happen, right? But you'd want to send that document out to them, let them have a look at it. It is quite difficult. It sounds almost impossible that this would actually land. But again, an email away, all these resources are readily available for you. Keep sending it to the right people, even if it's on the DMs. Send a screenshot of what the license agreement actually looks like and say, look, I've sampled this song. I want to release my song. This is what I'm offering you. What's your take? It sounds very informal, but there's a formality to all of this, right? And they will respond, should they respond. But in terms of the sample clearances, please do that before you drop the song, because, please just do that before you drop the song, because it becomes a mess. It becomes a mess for everybody.
A follow-up question on that question. How much is sampling? Because I'll make an example, Nivo. There's a song Musa did. I think it's Tando Lwami. At the end of that song, he samples another old song. My question is now, it's literally just like 45 seconds?
I actually have the same question. So what did you guys do?
So I called Mom Judith Sepuma and asked, please, can we use this thing? She says, Ash, I don't know who my publisher was at the time.
Ew.
So we went back to the album and looked, and then at the time she was at Sony ATV. We call Sony ATV, hey guys, can we please clear the sample? Oh no, that album we didn't do. So then it was a whole rat race of trying to find it. But the reality of the situation is, the moment you're going to take someone else's recording or property and you add it into yours, it's already sampling. You're gonna
regardless
have to
of how long it is.
You have to get permission.
Okay, all right. You go there.
Good afternoon. So I have 3 questions for you guys. So the first question is directed to legal. I wanted to know, what kind of business should I register when I want to open a record label? Is it a closed corporation, a private company, whatever? And then the follow-up question is, what does a deed of assignment actually entail? I'd like to know the criteria within it. And then the last one goes to management. It's how many people make a team effective, from management, everyone in that ecosystem. Yeah, and that's all.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. It really depends on what your artist needs. It really, really depends on what your artist needs. And for example, one of one of my clients has, I'm sorry to say this, 3 different legal firms representing them, because it's 3 different things and 3 different scenarios that, one of them has a business affairs of his own that looks after his business interests. So it really depends on what exactly you need as an artist and what the need and what the gaps are.
First question, the company that you need to register. Look, it's definitely not a public company, I can tell you that. Don't make that mistake. So ordinarily, and what we've seen, they're all private companies. So you just register a company on the CIPC website, private company, not a public, not a state-owned, those type of things. It's just a private company. So straight up, there's no unnecessary things that you'd want to add to that. Just register a private company and trade as a label, right? The second question on what is a deed of assignment. I need to know in what context. You need to explain. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, so a deed of assignment, I don't know if that is necessarily what you're looking to do, but a deed of assignment in legal jargon is essentially assigning rights to somebody else. So I own a works, and I can then assign or give right to, or waive my right to whatever works to Nivo to exploit and do whatever. So for instance, when you have your music, right, and you now go into collaboration or you sign under a label, you are then giving them rights to your music to exploit however they wish. And this is why it's always, this conversation of, no, I want to own my masters, and it's like, sure, it's all good and well to own your masters, but why not give them to a machine that is a big record label to work the masters, who have the resources and the people to do with that what they must. So essentially, deed of assignment is assigning your rights to somebody else to do with that what they need to.
All right.
Good day, everyone. So I recently got approached by a record label. So this guy saw my music on YouTube. He reached out and he wants to do a project. He gave me the contract. I went through it, and the contract specifically says he owns the masters. So what I wanted to know is, because the record label is still unknown and they're still small, can I negotiate for, if not a percentage of the masters? Should I negotiate, like, should I just keep my masters? And then my second question is, how specific should the contract be? Because most of the things we talked about them verbally, like how much they're gonna put on the table, which management companies they're gonna use, also all of that stuff. So I wanted to know how specific should it be? Like, should it talk about everything, the amount, the management companies, the studios, and whatever?
I think let me start. It's very important to make sure you have everything on paper. Everything has to be on paper. I'll make an example. There was sorry, every time I think about this situation, my heart breaks. But there was a young artist who was really, really popping. The company found him. This company found him. They wanted to sign him. Oh, you're amazing. We're going to blow you up, They agree verbally on things. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. The contract comes. He's a kid. He takes this thing to his mom. His mom really is just like, oh, okay, yeah, ish. What did they say? The guy comes to the house, explains what they explain. Now, the mom signs the agreement, right? The son wants this thing. He wants to blow up. First year, the kid is moving. The kid is moving crazy. Then, next minute, money issues are now starting, right? He now wants to leave. then when they look at the agreement and what the mom signed, there were so many things layered in that contract. It was crazy. They put like an auto renewal that says like, if you don't cancel this agreement 8 months in advance, we will automatically renew it for 10 years. You understand? Kid was stuck. You understand? Kid was stuck. So it's very important that, one, everything is in the agreement, and two, when you get the agreement, make sure it gets scrutinized as much as possible. But also the other thing about agreements, and that's what I've just learned recently, is that you need to make sure that it covers how you guys are going to fight. You have to think about when we fight. You have to think about, it's not always gonna be nice. What is now the process when we fight? You know, make sure that's in the agreement, or you guys work that out, because then at least you're able to cover yourself. But then in terms of the masters, you're gonna have to answer, are they paying for everything? They're paying for everything, you're just coming in, and I think you might have room to negotiate that, but they'll definitely push back and say, no, we're paying for everything, you're not bringing anything to the table.
Can I just add to what Nivo is saying about the contract and the masters? So again, going back to the initial conversation where I was just talking about what to look out for in a contract, termination clause, very, very important. Like you need to, again, like Nivo said, how do we handle a situation where there is a conflict in this relationship, right? Am I able to get out? What does that look like? Is there a period for remedial? How long is that? And if that's not remedied, how do I get out? Two, the term, right? There's an initial term in every contract, say 3 years if you're signing to an indie, right? But then they have this funny thing where everything is automatically renewed after the initial term. That should never be the case, right? If you want to renew an agreement, it has to say by mutual agreement by the parties in writing. Right, so you need to agree that you actually want to renew for a second, third, or fourth option period. So that's very, very important to look out for. Again, going back to the question on the masters, what label has done for you plays a very important role, right, in ownership of the masters. And I want to, again, it's always like a debate, right, where I would say let the label own your masters and let them do with the music what they have to do, because that's why you joined a label to begin with, right? So if I am me and I sign to T-Effect Records, right, I have to assign to them my rights to my music, because then T-Effect is able to do what they need to, radio plugins, sync deals, all those things. They have to have the rights to the music in order to do that. Because then if they don't, it nullifies them as a middleman in doing what a label is supposed to do. So my argument, and a lot of people would argue, no, why I need to own my masters. And I'm like, sharp, you want to own your masters, but what are you going to do with them? You're just you. You don't have the resources, you don't have the machinery, you don't have the structure of a label and the connections that they have to push your music. Let them own the masters for that 3-year period. Commit to whatever commitments that you have within that period. Let them play and do what they need to do with it. When you're done, if you're happy, renew by mutual agreement. If you're not, terminate. Then you get to retain your masters again, take your catalog elsewhere.
Or if you want to, if you can give them your masters, but also work in a buyback clause where you're able to buy them back.
And then, for instance, now you mentioned that this kid was stuck. So what happens in such a situation? I know legally he's bound, right? And usainile, there's nothing else that we can do. But from a legal point of view, is there no ethics that comes in? Like, okay, fine, we agree that he signed this, but ethically this doesn't make sense. How do you fight for such a person?
Yeah, go ethical.
You?
And this is the thing, right? In law, you can never claim ignorance, or you can never claim, I didn't know better, unfortunately. And when something like this comes to us, you literally look at it and you're like, oh my God, like, how do I tell you that you actually you're in a bit of a pickle, right? It's difficult. It's difficult because, and we had a client recently who, and it was a very different scenario with a major. She got into an artist recording with a major, and she wasn't happy with the relationship, and she wanted out. But now she wants to take her entire album that she recorded with them with her, right? And they said that doesn't work. And with a major, it's difficult because there's now international clearances that you need from whoever guy who needs to say sharp. Because at the end of the day, these are the label's assets, right? And they want to retain those. The unfortunate part is that they're probably never going to do anything with that. It just sits on their roster of things that they've done and music that they have. It's quite difficult. And sometimes the open and honest conversation you need to have legally is, unfortunately, you cannot, right?
Then
or
there's
you
another
get
conversation
into
that you don't want to say.
exactly. It's just it's uncomfortable even for us. It's unfortunate. Or you get into some kind of arrangement with the label, which isn't necessarily favorable, like an override, for instance. So you're going to leave the label and you want to go to another label, or you want to get into a distro with another label. However, they still need to recoup whatever it is that they'd given and put into that album. So they say, we want 5% of all your net receipts on the new projects for however many years until recoupment. God knows how long that's going to take if they put in 100K, for instance, right? Sounds very little, but if your music's not making money, 5% over however many years is a very long time, right? So then that's the arrangement, that's the alternative. Override, or getting into like a tripartite agreement with another party to say, yeah, well, she's out of Nivo Records and she's with Lesotho Records, but Lesotho Records, Nivo Records wants 5% of whatever would ordinarily be coming to us.
Sorry, there's one more that she's not telling you guys. Then there's the dirty side of the business where, for example, you then have to figure out, have these people been honoring this agreement? Then now, that's the other route now. You're going down and dirty, trying to figure out where did they breach or what. Then it's a big, like I said, it's the dirty side of the business.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, the artist still has not dropped any music in 2 years.
Shame.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Sakelem Zalazala. Just want to ask a question which I think it can be more of an advice. It's just that I keep being disturbed by these master rights. My question first, before I talk about masters, my question is on legal side, the importance of asking for that contract, whatever contract you get, in your own language. You know, also because we all know our challenge as musicians. You know, I left school because of and then I decided to be a musician, and then these contracts, they come with words like domicilium sitandi, you know, so we don't know those things. So I want to know the importance. And then secondly, on management as well, I need to know who's the employer and then who is the employee between the artist and the manager. And then the last thing on masters, we only have two rights in the industry, in a recording, in a song, in a CD or music, you know, which is the recording right and also the publishing right. The master right, which will always stay with whoever paid the studio. You know, we've been discussing that the ownership is always with whoever who paid for those recordings. And then on the publishing side, the publisher actually is the person who wrote the music until you assign those rights to a publishing company, you see. So on that one, I want to say every time when you ask for that permission of sampling the song or remixing or whatever you're going to do with the song, you have to ask for permission from the master, the person who owns the master and the person who owns the publishing. Yeah. By the way, I've got a book on music rights and business in the industry, and I love these sessions because that's where now we start to get more information. And I'm happy that the legal is here, and thanks to Loki and YouTube Black. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I forgot the question.
Yeah? You forgot the question.
Oh, the contract in your home language is a very tricky one.
I don't think it's impossible to get. I don't think the whole document itself could be translated into an African language, for instance, but you can get somebody, again, if I'm reading a contract, Kemosoto, I can then translate the contents of the agreement to somebody who is of the same language as I am, just so they can get an understanding. So in that way, I think it would, to an extent, assist in terms of understanding the contents of the agreement. Look, I would love for our contracts to be in languages that are understood by everyone, African languages, but I don't think we've gotten to that point as yet. But in terms of translating, there are ways. I mean, I've read documents out, and this is not in my space professionally, but with contracts that I've done for family members, for instance. They do not know, they've got farms and they get into agreements with whoever, but Malome doesn't know what domicile means, for instance, So I have to now narrow it down, or at least translate exactly what this clause means and what the repercussions or ramifications of this means. So I think to that extent that it's possible.
And then I think just to answer the management conversation, it's a very tricky one. Let me tell you why. Sometimes you're the boss, sometimes you're not the boss as the manager. Because, for example, in our management agreement, you are taking your image rights and and whatever other rights, you're giving them to us to exploit. But then also in that agreement, you also sign over certain things to us to be able to do what we do. So, for instance, funny enough, I actually had an argument with one of my clients this past weekend. He was smoking weed on a picture, right? And he posted it on Instagram. And then I said to him, yo, you're going to need to delete that. He says, why? I say, the problem is that you're going to fuck up the bag. We are in talks with a really big brand for a really big bag, and these guys are really crazy about it. So now I need to step in to the boss level and say, hey, Munna, take this thing out. Because if you don't want to take it, I'm going to log in myself and delete it. So it really depends on what scenario, what situation. Sometimes they are our kids sometimes. You play multiple roles. Sometimes you're the father, sometimes you are the manager, sometimes you're the number two, sometimes you have to step up and be the number one. But it's a fluid relationship that you just figure out as you guys go.
I just want to ask a question quickly also. Now that we're talking on recording deals, a lot of people in the industry right now are rocking alone. They're doing these things by themselves. They just open up their own, I don't want to say recording labels, but entertainment companies. And their music is under that and all of that. How tricky is that? Do we still need recording labels? Would you, I think it's for management, would you advise artists to be under management, or just really do your own thing and just have management and leave the recording things out?
It really depends on a lot of elements. It depends on a lot of elements. Do you have the money for it? Do you have the money to pay for someone to do your publicity? Do you have money for all these different things? The labels do. So if you want their money, they're gonna want certain things from you. So you always got to take it scenario, situation by situation. But I need you guys to understand that making of the music isn't the end of the job. That's where the job starts once you've made the song. Because now you're going to have to work and try and build the brand. You're going to try and sell the music. And that takes a lot of effort and a lot of money that the labels have. So certain situations, you really have to take it situation by situation. Sometimes artists just literally don't need the labels. I'll make an example. A lot of our clients, the way we've built and structured the ecosystems is there's a way in which we raise the funds for their own labels. So for example, if you're taking a gig for 50 rand, 10% of that is going to go to a separate account so that all the stuff that we need that the label was going to pay for, you can pay for. You know, so you always got to take it situation by situation.
Okay. So a hand? Is it you?
Hi everyone. So my question is for T-Effect, and hopefully Locke can also answer this question because I just want a different perspective. So management, in terms of commission, what is the standard commission? Because I have a contract that I received and she was saying that for booked events she wants 35%, sponsorship she wants 50%, brand deals 45%, social media profile she wants 20%.
Damn, that's crazy.
Is that Shook Knight's daughter?
Surely. Oh no. Oh no.
Mate, do you want to divulge your percentages?
I'm not going to divulge my percentages. Whoa, that's too much. That is hectic. No, that's too much. Like, I can tell you right now, that is too much. I think standard practice, you can, as legal, you can say yes or no, but I think like max is like 20% across the board. Brand, bookings, but also just depends on contribution as well. Like, okay, you're taking 20%, what are you giving me from that? Like, how is this is a give and take? It's a partnership, remember? So you need to work for that 20%. But if it's just bookings, like you're looking at between 10 and 15%, if it's just bookings. But if I'm now doing brand and I'm doing bookings and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, like I'm doing more, so therefore I need to get more, right? But there's also situations where you have a company, like a management company, and you have a record label, and they both work together to get those things done. And sometimes the percentage can go to like a 30, but like that's pushing it, like we are pushing it when we're saying 30%. And like maybe 10% can go to like the bookings or like the management, and like another 20% can go to the label, whatever the case may be, because every situation is different. But 45%.
She said 50 for brand.
No, that's too much. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
No.
But what we do is we scale it based on who the artist is and what the artist is grossing. So if it's a up and coming artist and you're starting up, the percentage is going to be higher because of the contribution that we're going to be putting in. The bigger you get as an artist, the more you start grossing, the lower our percentage starts going. But yeah, no, 45, 50, yes.
I also think because the deal that you've currently been presented with, and I'm assuming it's all encompassing, right? It's recording and management.
No, it's just management.
It's just management. Look, I'd still go between, it has to 20, 25 at most. And if it's got brands, the recording as well, still 20, 25. Anything beyond that, that's crazy.
After the session, you must let me know what the name of that company is.
And then my last question, I wanted to find out, for an up-and-coming artist, how do you become your own publisher? In terms of...
You don't want to do that, trust me.
Funny enough, right? I wouldn't discourage it, because you look at a 25K, for instance.
Sure.
25 is self-published. 25 doesn't have a publisher, and he's done pretty well. And look, he's approached us, and we give all advice. And sometimes we say, look, let the streets push your music. The streets pushed Peli Makaveli, and Hustler's Prayer has gone gold. So, I mean, look, it's good and well to have all these resources because they can do for you what you need them to. But also you need to look at your music, you need to look at your listening, you need to look at your market. 25K has a huge base, and that's why Peli Makaveli is where it is, for instance, today. And now he can think of, do I want to publish? He has that leg room, to kind of play around. Do I actually need a publisher?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's just the admin.
I hear that,
Yeah,
100%,
it's
100%.
just the admin, but like you're saying, it depends. It really depends on the artist and what the situation is. A lot of. So one of my clients, which you actually did the deal for, part of the stuff. Okay, the deal is with a publisher, but like part of the music is co-pub, so it's a co-publishing, and then part of the other music is an admin deal where they just literally just do the admin of it. So it really depends on what the situation is.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, I think one. You can go.
45. I'm actually shocked. Yeah, I'm actually so shocked.
Hi, my name is Hanif Maulidi, and I'm an artist manager, right? So, like what I was saying, right, when it comes to like the splits and stuff, right? So if like you're managing, for example, a group, and then so you have like your percentage with the group, for example, the 20% is the group, and then if you know like, okay, all the artists in there are also individual artists, do I then have separate contracts with the individual artists, or does it now become like, mixing the two, or how does it go? Because if I build a group and then, they, become something, and then they all go out and do their individual careers, that, leaves me in a sticky situation. So do I have contracts with all the individual artists, or how does it work? Then second question, sorry. The second question, like building the business. So already, so we have the business, and then we also like want to do like, we also actually do like production and other stuffs in the business. So do I have to like open the businesses as separate, like, okay, talent management, then production, and then the label, like for example, Rock Nation, I'm not sure how the business is, but they have like talent management, sports agency, the label. So how does the business work? Thank you.
I think the first thing, just for the first question, it depends again on the contract. Is your contract with the group and does it cover everybody, or is your contract with, is your contract with just the group, or is your contract with the group and the individuals? It really depends on what the agreement is.
I think, just going back on whether you contract the group or individually, because things will change, right? So you may have a contract with the group today, but individually, are these saying they're doing their own thing as well? Okay. So you would want to contract the group, right? But if each person or member of the group is also doing their own thing, whether it's in the music space or whatever space, you'd want to have a contract in place for that. Because if you get a booking for the group, you take a percentage of whatever you'd agreed to. So you're 20%, for instance, of the group's income, right? But if you're going to now, if a member in the group is going to get an individual booking, then you need to have a contract as the manager for that individual and take a percentage of that individual's booking fee, for instance. So you want to have a contract. For instance, you look at a Black is Brown, right? So there's Mr. Jazik, frontline artist. Black is Brown has signed Zinzan, Biza, Maten, right? But if you're going to manage all of those people, there's a contract for Zan, Maten, Biza. They all have their individual contracts. But then if Zinzan and Maten want to release a collab like they did recently, then if they want to book them together, you need to look at them as a group. And if they want to book Zan alone, it's Zan alone. So just rather, it seems like it's an administrative muscle, but it's very important, especially to mitigate certain conversations that are unnecessary to be had. Like, I manage Zan, Shop. I manage both Zinzan and Maten. This is, if you want the duo, this is the fee, this is my cut, essentially.
I think I'll take the last question.
Sorry, can I add one thing to that? It's just, I'm Adam McFarlane, I work at YouTube, but prior to working at YouTube, I spent the last 10 years as a manager in the States. And one thing that I do know is that when you think about the individuals versus the group, those are two separate entities
100%.
that are going to release music in separate ways.
Yeah.
But I think it really depends on how you think about structuring your business approach to that group versus the individual. And then to your point, it absolutely makes sense to have separate agreements because essentially it's a different release plan, it's a different release strategy, different marketing promotions plan, it's a different legal responsibility. So it's almost like in order for you, there's groups in the States recently even that have like gone into things with every good intention and then fallen out. People have been ousted from the group. It's a legal nightmare.
Yeah.
So definitely on the front end, it's important to set up the entities as separate, especially if they're already communicating to you that they plan on going and doing their separate things. the reality is that like not everybody's going to be equally successful, and that's going to be a point of contention moving forward. So
There you have it.
Okay, so our last question. I think I had yes.
Yeah, my question is more like the elephant in the room. It's something that I feel like it's not discussed a lot. I want to ask, like, it's about copyright infringement. So, let's say as an artist, your song gets stolen. What's the process? What do you do in that process? Let's say you have registered it, you have copyrighted it. So what steps do you take? Because I know a few people who have had their songs stolen, but they couldn't do anything about it. So, as you guys are already in the industry, work with these every day, what advice can you give to us as upcoming artists in terms of copyright infringement?
So, the first thing that people always want to do, because everybody knows, we're going to approach DSPs and we're going to have that song taken down. Like, it's a takedown. It's like the most popular ththing that people want to do. We're issuing a takedown. So what I would advise in a situation like that, speak to, again, guys, I think I'm just a big fan of conversation because so much can be resolved in conversation. Approach whoever has allegedly stolen the song, right? Say, listen, this is a song that we've seen. This is the original song. Can we reach some kind of negotiation? Very similar to what you do with the sample clearance, right? Can we reach some kind of negotiation? We would want X percentage of your copyright, right? And look, more often than not, because nobody wants the song to be taken down, especially if it's doing numbers, right? The alternative, and should you not reach any kind of resolve, is to say, fine, until we've actually reached some kind of middle ground, we will approach DSPs, Apple, Spotify to issue a takedown of the song. And then it can bring it back up when we actually have spoken about the terms that we'd like to move forward in. So yeah, that's how I would advise that you approach a song. Don't go for a takedown because at the end of the day, you still want it to continue making the money that it needs to, so that when you eventually have reached a point where you've agreed on a percentage, you get a cut of that.
Now, for instance, right? Let's say he actually wrote the song. He's alone on that song. So he was pretty much just going to get everything for himself. Now he needs to settle for a cut. How does that go about? Because now you are eating into his bag.
Are you talking about if he wrote the song?
Yeah, and he
records it, someone else
records
hears it, then that person records it
yes,
as well.
and then releases it. And then, okay, fine, it's doing numbers, okay, good. And you're advising him to go speak to that person and say, you know what, I want a certain amount of cut from whatever you're making. But now he's only getting a cut. It's no longer the money that he was bound to make, because then now he's settling because it's making rounds.
It depends, sorry, before you answer. It depends on the situation. When that person stole the song, right, and they re-recorded the song, did they add anything new to it? Because if they added something new to it, then
You never
on
know.
the publishing side of things, there's...
Still not entirely yours.
Yeah, it's not entirely yours anymore. You know, but if they literally sang everything you said, word for word, and that's all, then that's your publishing.
That's when you can request 100% of the publishing.
Okay, I think we can close it off. But before we do, I just want from both sides, management and legal, last parting words. These are songwriters, these are producers, they're coming up in the industry. What should they look out for? What is your departing words for them?
Okay, number one from me, the music business, entertainment business is 100% relationship driven. That's one thing you must understand. It's 100% relationship driven because you're gonna need something from someone. You're always gonna need something from someone to actually move forward. So make sure you're always servicing those relationships. No matter, I'll give you the smallest example, right? Where's this guy? JP. Where's JP? So there's a gentleman here he's got an amazing title now. He works at YouTube. right, in the UK. He used to work at Sony, right? Is that him? There he is. Hey, please clap for JP. That's my best friend. So he used to work at Sony, right? He and I built a relationship. We became friends. We serviced each other. If, for example, if he was going through a breakup, not like that. If he was going through a breakup, I'll bring him a bottle of alcohol, and vice versa, right? Relationships. You gotta always service the relationship. Costa Titch's YouTube channel gets hacked. He's just moved to YouTube. Guess how quick we got it back? You understand? Yeah. So you always got to make sure you're servicing relationships because you're going to need someone at the end of the day, right? I think that's the first thing. Second thing, there's a lot of snakes in this business, and the snakes are always look pretty. You know, whatever they're presenting to you always looks amazing. Do not get lost in the sauce. Don't get caught up in the sauce of everything. Always scrutinize everything to the T. Those are my parting words.
I think mine is very simple. Seek legal counsel. It's really that simple. But more than anything, when presented with paperwork, take your time. Like, you actually can request that I go over a contract and seek the right advice from certain people. Don't feel obligated or rushed into getting into anything. And my biggest red flag is when somebody says, here's paperwork, I need you to sign quickly so we can start working. Why? You know, and we've seen it happen so many times. So I think that's just, for me, very simple. Seek legal counsel, and there's no rush. It's very exciting, and you know you want to start working and you want to do everything and anything, but there's literally no rush, because rather do it right and make sure that everything is in place than sign something only to have to deal with a bigger mess later on, you know, down the line. So take your time.
I think just to add to that, guys, please definitely take your time. We understand the situation is, hey, if Ambitious comes here, they're offering you 500 tower right now. You know, at home, it's very tricky. You know, like, the situation at home is tough. It's literally your only way out. Take your time. Sorry if Ambitious watches this. I love you guys.
All right, thank you so much to Nivo and Liseho. I think this was quite informative. We're going to take a break until, I think, 2:45. Then we're going to have our second session, that's brand and PR. So, yeah, I think we can close it off for now. Thank you.